It is 7 PM,
Is Chris gonna be here?
and we've got 5 members here. I'll call the Londonderry Heritage Commission, Historic District Commission to order for October 25th, 2024, and I want to note that this is a special meeting. And we do have special meetings as needed, and there's only one item on the agenda tonight, so it is a public hearing. So we have some people I know that will want to talk also besides us, so we don't need to do all the talking here. But this is a public hearing on an application for a certificate of approval for the removal of a 42-foot by 32-foot barn located at 2 Litchfield Road, tax map 12, lot 68, zone agricultural residential 1 and historic overlay district. CC Properties LLC is the applicant and the owner. And this is a request for demolition on the historic property, and there's certain rules that we have to follow that are in our ordinance. And basically, in regards to demolition, this is where a public safety needs require the removal of a building within the district, and as determined by the building inspector, the Historic District Commission shall allow removal. A request for demolition will be based upon structural instability or deterioration as prepared by a registered architect or professional engineer. And no demolition permit may be issued by the building department until the commission has either filed with the building department a signed letter of approval or has failed to file a notice of disapproval within the specified time period of 45 days. And 45 days ends Sunday. So that's why we are having a special meeting tonight. So it's based upon the, really around public safety. So what I would like to have is the applicant and his able attorney here to let us know what it is. We also do have a structural engineer's report. It appears to be fairly thorough with a lot of pictures.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes.
Could I ask you to please appoint the alternate members as voting members?
I knew I was forgetting something.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you. I have to be kept on track. Let's see. We have, well, Chris is not here tonight. I'll appoint Laura to vote for Chris. John is not here, so I'll appoint Megan to vote for John. And David is not here, so I'll appoint Jim to vote for David. And Kristen is not here, so that's all I can appoint. So that gives us, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voting members. 4 is a quorum, so we can proceed with the meeting. So introduce yourselves, please, for our records.
Good evening, members. My name is Laura Gandy. I'm an attorney with Divine Millimet in Manchester, and with me I have one of the managing partners at CC Properties LLC, Richard Flyer.
Welcome.
So I just wanted to start off with a quick background procedurally. Unfortunately, I think having a special meeting on a Friday has drawn some concerns from the public about what is happening and what got us to this point. So it's important for me that there's no negative reflection on my client as to why we're here. So I just want to go over what happened and what got us to this point. As the commission's aware, we came before you in July and we had a public hearing. At that point in time, the application was denied without prejudice because you wanted a structural engineer report. After that time, we retained the services of a structural engineer report. He came, he visited the property in August, and then on September 12th, I filed, as per the town zoning, a certificate of approval, dropped that off with the building department. And I dropped that off in my cover letter with the intent of being heard on September 26th, which was the commission's next scheduled meeting. So as you know, the commission meets every other month. So I dropped it off on the 12th. I sent in my cover letter. We would like to be heard on the 26th. That was done. I thought we were good. I didn't hear anything. When it got closer to the meeting date, I reached out to the town and I learned that the commission is not having their regularly scheduled September 26th meeting. which I was surprised because there was nothing on the town's website that said it was canceled, that it was postponed, that gave me any indication that that meeting wasn't moving forward. So
Well, I was surprised also. I didn't know it till about a day before, so.
right. So I,
Planning on going, so that's probably part of my fault, not.
well, I'm not pointing fingers. I just want everybody to know, so there's no fingers pointed at my client. So I had every intent of being here on the 26th. I learned from town staff that the reason why the meeting on the 26th wasn't happening because you had a meeting in August. I looked at your August meeting minutes, and it was clear that it said your next meeting is on the 26th. So we had every intent of being here on the 26th. We did exactly what we were supposed to do. The 26th came and went. I still didn't hear anything from town staff. Now, the zoning regulations, as you are aware, provides that section 4.6.2.9, the Historic District Commission shall conduct a public hearing on the application within 30 days of filing. 30 days came and went, and no public hearing. So right now, your zoning says I was entitled to a public hearing within 30 days. That did not happen. I believe that 30 days was right around October 12th. Didn't happen. I didn't receive a phone call from town staff. I didn't have any communication from anyone about my application, nothing. So right now, I'm entitled to a public hearing within 30 days. I did not get one. After that, on October 18th at 4:50 p.m. on a Friday, I received an email from Kirsten saying, not consulting, saying what's going on, basically saying we are scheduling a public hearing on Friday, which is today, for your application. No communication before, nothing, not, hey, does this work for you? What's happening? There you go. I was supposed to be on vacation today, but here I am. So we had that on October 18th, and the reason why is because you have your 45-day time limit, and I understand that. But the method and manner in which this application was handled, and now the negative reflection that this is having on the application and on my client is unfair. As you know, there's a lot of social media scuttlebutt that happens. There has been extensive social media post about this particular application, why it wasn't posted in the Londonderry Times, and I'm going to answer that question. I don't know, and I can't speak what happened within the confines of Town Hall, but when I got the email on the 18th saying we're having the public hearing, you have 5 days which to post the public hearing notice. So they had no choice but to put it in the Union Leader on that Saturday. That was the only day that they were going to make it to give you the 5 days for Friday to meet the 45-day deadline. So the public posting the legal notice, we had no part of that. It was done in the Union Leader because for whatever reason, the town did not have it properly noticed, posted, filed. I have no idea. But again, my concern is there's a lot of negativity being talked about the client, but my client in this application, which is for no fault of our own. We filed on September 12th. We did everything that we should have. I can't comment what happened within town staff or how the application was treated, but I'm telling you, we were not allowed our 30-day public hearing. And here we are on a Friday evening, on basically the 44th day, to hear an application which now has been tainted with public comment due to the lack of proper processing. So with that, I will go into the application. As this board is aware, we would...
Before you start, I have no prejudice. Again, I know Richard, and I have a good relationship with Richard, good working relationship. So, believe me, anything that has happened, and I feel bad that the management at the town hall couldn't fulfill their obligations to you. And I'll make that public. It's unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. So let's get through this thing and let's see if we can resolve it.
Yeah, we'll.
Agreed.
Continue.
So as this board is aware, we were here on July 24th. We came in front. I went through an extensive discussion about the property. I'm going to go through that a little bit again. So as this commission's aware, this property at 2 Litchfield Road has 3 levels of regulations on it. It is zoned,
I'm sorry, Chairman, I need to ask a question. Did we receive this in an email? My email isn't working, the one that was supposedly set up for me. It's not
Yes.
working, so this is the first time I've seen it
Oh,
tonight.
okay, yes,
Have,
'cause
when was this put in our hands? Do we know?
Earlier this
I think we had this back in July.
The engineering?
No, the
Nope.
engineering, not yet.
I'm talking about the engineering. When did,
Engineering,
Engineering
no,
came
this
yesterday.
this has just been
it just
now.
came yesterday, so we even haven't had the time to look
Right,
at this,
and-
just so you know.
Right,
That's-
and I'm gonna tell, like, I
Okay.
gave it to the town. Again, I just heard from the
I
town last
understand.
Friday, and I gave it to them
Yeah.
yesterday.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause
not a
we're-
problem.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, yesterday was my first.
I just wasn't
look at
sure,
it.
because my email isn't working, so.
Might I also state that my email is not working either? Kirsten has been very helpful. She has had to send information to my own personal email. I am still having problems with the town email. I do not know if that creates issues, sending things to personal email or not. I'd like to get my town email back up.
Mr. Chair, would you like a
Very good.
response? I'm sorry, I didn't want to speak out of turn.
Oh, do you want to say something?
No,
Kirsten?
I was asking if you wanted one, I didn't want to.
Oh. No, I don't think we
Awesome.
should
Okay,
dwell on
thank
this.
you.
It's,
Awesome.
no, we gotta get to the matter at hand.
I would like to get to the merits. So, again, we are here, we're submitting a certificate of approval under section 4.6.2.6 of the Town of Londonderry zoning ordinance for the removal of a barn located on the property. The barn is approximately 42 by 32 feet in size, is freestanding on a loose fieldstone foundation approximately 100 feet from the existing house. The property and barn are familiar to the commission, as members of the commission have previously granted to the property a certificate of approval for the erection of a sign and conducted a site walk to observe and comment on the condition of the barn. The property is unique in nature, as it is the only privately owned property in the historic district, and it is encumbered with two zoning districts, that's a C3 and the Historic Overlay District, and a 2006 Historic Preservation Easement Deed. And I'm not going to go into the history, but I think this board is aware, back, I believe, in 1987, the unusual circumstances that had this property becoming the way it is today. Pursuant to section 4.6.2.6.c, the commission has the authority to issue a certificate of approval for the demolition of the barn. And as acting chair has stated, the basis for the demolition is based on public safety. So where public safety needs require the removal of a building within the district as determined by the building inspector, the Historic District Commission shall allow removal. The commission and the town council are aware of the public safety needs and concerns regarding the barn. In fact, members of the commission inspected the structure on April 27th, 2023, and provided detailed notes, and that's in its May 25th, 2023 meeting minutes, all of which point to the poor and deteriorating conditions of the barn. At June 5th, 2023, at the town council meeting, former town council member Jim Butler, a member of this commission, stated, "I can tell you the barn, the roof is ready to cave in, the sills are rotted, and there were a couple of members that would not even walk into the barn because that is the kind of condition it was in. They thought I was crazy for walking in it. So he has done some things to the barn to try and help it out." At that same meeting, Mr. Butler noted the lack of historical significance, as the windows are not the original windows, water runs through the cellar, this is for the house, and rot is present in the cleat and the sills. On April 24th, in anticipation of us asking for relief from this board, Chief Building Inspector Nick Connor and Assistant Building Inspector Brad Anderson inspected the site and provided a report dated May 5th, 2024, which is attached as Exhibit B. The report spelled out numerous structural deficiencies and safety concerns. And some of those are the purlin roof beams on the east half of the roof are severely sagged and appeared to be on the verge of complete failure. Remainder of the roof sheeting boards are rotted. Severe lean on the cupola is the result of the cupola being supported only on one side by the aging purlin beams. In key areas, the wall beams, corner posts are rotted and separating from each other. Foundation is almost non-existent, and the exterior trim and siding are rotted and falling away along with many of the wall boards. The report concluded that a historical preservation of the barn would require a ground-up renovation and ended with the following statement. However, in my opinion, repairing this structure as it should be done would be impractical. So this matter was placed before you at the July 25th meeting, and the commission denied the application because pursuant to the zoning, they wanted, in addition to the report from Nick Gardner, a request for a demolition. The zoning says a request for demolition will be based on structural instability or deterioration as prepared by a registered architect or a professional engineer. And I think I mentioned to the board before, I just wanted to read, I had a further email contact with Mr. Gardner about the public safety concerns with the barn, and he noted to me, I'm just gonna find that. I said to Nick on July 17th, and I previously provided copies of these emails to the board. Hi, Nick. This is to confirm our conversation yesterday, where you stated that there are public safety concerns with the barn, particularly the rear portion of the roof that could fall in at any time. As we discussed, my client is requesting your attendance at the July 25th meeting to delve deeper into these safety concerns. And Nick responded to me, hi, Laura, and this is for the July 25th meeting. At this time, I cannot commit to attending the Heritage Commission meeting, but I can confirm the conversation that we had with one correction. The purlin roof beams on the entire east half of the roof are severely sagged and appear to be on the verge of complete collapse. The boards on the west side of the roof are rotted, and key areas of wall beams and corner posts are rotted and separating from each other, partly caused by the fact that the foundation is almost non-existent, causing the structure to shift. So when you look at your regulations, 4.6.2.8, the criteria for demolition, the first thing we must demonstrate is where the public safety needs require the removal of a building within the district, and as determined by the building inspector, the Historic Commission shall allow the removal. So it's not discretionary, it's a shall. You do have your public building inspector who has determined that there are public safety needs that require the removal of the building. The second thing is C2, is a request for demolition will be based on structural instability or deterioration as prepared by a registered architect or professional engineer. And we did submit that report to you. And that's a report dated September 20th. And that is from SJG Engineering, LLC. And that is by a gentleman by the name of Stephen, and it's G-O-A-N. And he is, as the zoning requires, a professional engineer. And I did attach his LinkedIn profile to the report as well, so you can take a peek at his qualifications, where he is more than qualified to look at this bond and render an opinion and a report, and he did that. So on August 20th, he went to the barn and he met with myself and the managing member of CC Properties LLC, and he went through and he gave his report. And within the report, I don't want to read it verbatim, but he does speak of the foundation. He had concerns with foundation, the bent frames, and the roof elements. So he noted concerns, and those concerns are the rubble stone foundations have failed and are continuing to move as the building is moving. The wood frame elements have significant rot and insect damage. At one time, there was a wood floor that connected the building together at the sill level. The interior first floor framing is no longer in place except for a couple of beams that support the post, which would have added bracing to the building. The mortise and tenon peg joints are in extreme stress and are starting to pull apart. The roof boards have significant rot, and over time, the addition of roof coverings, we viewed 3 layers, adds dead weight to the building and holds in moisture. A large majority of the roof boards are rotted at the underside, Due to multiple layers of roofing, it is probable that the extent of the rot is much more than what can be visible from below. The cupola is at the second bay from the east side, which part of the cupola aligns with a bent frame, and the other side is in the span of the existing roof purlins. All of the purlins in this bay are sagging to the point of imminent structural failure. There are 2 purlins at the north side of the barn that have, in fact, fractured. So his conclusion, and this is what the commission needs to see, the conclusion: the barn is in extreme distress and is structurally unstable. That is what the zoning calls for. That is what our report provides. And again, there's a shall for the board to act. The barn is in extreme distress and is structurally unstable due to deterioration, which includes the extent of the fractured and rotted elements in the wall purlins, the corner post, sill beams in the roof, and in the bay that supports the cupola. The wood framing and connections that support the roof, wall purlins, and sill beams have deteriorated to such an extent, resulting in a loss of frame rigidity, leading to structural instability. The rotted board siding and roof boards reduce any rigidity that siding typically provides. Further, the existing rubble stone foundation has collapsed in many areas, which is exacerbating the unstable condition of the wood frame. Because of these issues, and this was as a result from the last time we were here, and I think it's outside of the commission's purview, there was talk about what could be done to basically put a Band-Aid on it, that, what remedial things could be done to save the barn. That is not within this board's purview, but I did ask the engineer to answer the questions of the commission last time. Could you do anything to save the barn or do something? And he said, because of these issues, any attempt at remedial work would be unsafe for those involved due to the existing deterioration and structural instability and is not recommended. And then he has his photos from when he was there at the site. So again, I'm just going to go back to section C. We provided the building inspector provided the report, speaks of public safety. You have your request for a demolition that speaks of the structural instability and deterioration of the barn. We are requesting a certificate of approval to demolish it, and your zoning ordinance says if we do those 2 things, that we shall be granted a certificate of approval. And with that, I just want to focus on, again, with the scuttle that's coming up, I'm not quite sure what the public hearing is going to consist of, but this is based on the town zoning, not any agreement between the town and the property owner. This is just the purview of the Heritage Commission with the particular zoning that's in front of it, and that's it. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come back again with the report, and we ask for your consideration in granting our certificate of approval. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Question that pops into my mind, since Mr. Flyer has owned the property, what has been put into that structure to for maintenance, to keep it viable and everything? That is, what labor has gone into it, what, parts, supplies, whatever, to maintain it. Has it been maintained
Well,
in your stewardship?
I think it has. When we,
I'm looking for specifics.
I'm going to give them to you. When we took over the barn, is this working? It's working all right?
Yes,
When you took over the property, it was knee-deep in debris.
well, yeah,
Which we
I'm talking
spent-
about from the period when you acquired it to, now. I'm not talking about what happened previously.
It's not previous. When I acquired it, we spent thousands of dollars removing the debris from the barn. It was left in a shambles. And we had gone to the building department.
But can you document that?
I can get you the bills if that will help you. We had 3 dumpsters. 2 large dumpsters were used with, I think, about 4 or 5 people unloading the barn. The barn was filled with newspapers, in some areas up to your knees. And along with that, cans of paint, gasoline, machinery.
What have you done to maintain?
I paid
the
to have it all cleaned out.
Yeah, besides cleaning out,
I even helped.
cleaning out is, let's say, at the beginning, but
Mm-hmm.
after that,
Well,
it's gone into the maintenance of that structure.
there's not much that can be done. We've tried to fix the door 3 or 4 times. That's the main door in front. Unfortunately, the previous owner took the sill out from underneath the entrance.
But
And so we couldn't close the barn
I don't know what the
safely.
previous owner has done, so.
Well,
you
I
know,
can
I'm
explain
looking
it.
to what you have done to keep that structure from, decay and falling apart.
I'm trying to explain that.
But let's not go,
Without the
let's look forward,
Okay.
during your stewardship.
without the sill, it's almost impossible to deal with the door structure, which is the most important part of the barn. The sill, which was on site when we had to take out the pool, we tried to lift it to bring it back to the barn. I again paid a substantial amount to the contractor to try to bring it over, but it was already cracked. It should never have been lifted up the way it was. It was a very significant sill, wider than the center part of this area, one piece, hand hewn. And it cracked because it was up on stones or bricks or whatever it was as a garden piece. So we have done everything we
But how about like the foundation itself? How about the beams? Anything done to maintain them?
I did bring the art group in town. I've been a helper for the town's art group since I moved here. And when I say the art group, the people that have the concerts on the common and the group, and I help with the transition of the group staying together and working together further. So I've been involved since the beginning when I came here. They decided that it would, along with my suggestion, that we have an art showing to board up the windows. Many of the windows were broken. Other windows were totally gone.
So the windows were I can recall that also, because you came before
I did the
this
same
commission.
thing I did with the house on Pillsbury Road when there was an opening. I had all the town historic people in pictures painted on by the art group for every window in the house when we had one of the town old home days. That was done several years prior. And that was donated to the Historic Commission after, whatever that group is down below, after we were done with, when we renovated the building and brought it back to life. That was, the windows had to be boarded up because there were bats and all kinds of animals coming in and out of the windows. And when I say all kinds, everything you can imagine, we couldn't keep the snakes out because of the
Yeah,
door.
I'm
that-
talking about how to keep that building upright. What did you do to give it support,
I prayed.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ms.
Yeah,
Gandia,
I think we need to move along from this.
yes. Ms. Gandia, I know we have our narrative here from the engineer, but did you receive any commentary from him when he thought that the damage was done and might have been at what point could have been repairable?
I did not get into that at all.
Because-
I just looked at what was requested, what the feedback the board gave me last time, which was to find out if there was anything that could be done to, as a remedial measure. I did not get into the history like that.
I can help.
It appears from the photos that, even within the past 5 or 6 or 7 years when the owner has owned the building, that it would not have been even repairable within that time period.
I can't comment because I did not ask.
Right.
I don't want to act like I'm a structural.
Yeah, it would have been helpful if he was here tonight to answer some questions.
Yeah, Fortunately, we don't have that.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Do we have public comment here? From the public? Public comment.
I'll get input from the board, then I'm going to go get public comment. Okay. And any,
Questions for me right now?
okay. Okay, this is a public hearing. We ask you to come to the microphone, one by one, and state your name and address. And Mr. Ellis, I should say, Dr. Ellis, pardon me.
Is that microphone on over there?
Yes,
At the table, yes.
or you, I mean, if you want to, you could
Yeah,
sit,
do you wanna sit,
David.
Dave?
You can sit.
That's what I intend to do. Attaboy. I'm sorry, I'm not as good at standing as I used to be. I shall be referencing these pictures if you care to pass them around.
Can I say just one thing? Could you folks talk into your microphones? Because I noticed at home, it's hard for people to hear if the microphone is around close to you.
Yes,
So make sure we get all of the information out.
thank you, Ian. Keep the microphones close, that's, please.
Okay. I'm Dave Ellis, 1 Wiltshire Drive. The applicant seems to seek special treatment by his statement the property is unique
Another one coming.
in nature as it is the only privately owned property in the historic district. This is untrue. Parcels 698 and 697-1 are the only 2 publicly owned properties, being the Town Common and the Kent Allen Forest. Parcel 953 is privately owned by Grange 44. Parcel 618-1 is privately owned by the Londonderry Historical Society. Applicant's parcel is owned by CC Properties Limited Liability Company. What is unique about applicant's property is that it is the only parcel that is owned by a limited liability company engaged in real estate investment and leasing. He knew that parcel 1268 was in the historic district when he purchased it, and that it was encumbered by an easement. Special consideration is not justified because he wants to increase its value. I draw your attention to the 2 pictures that I have handed out. The first was a photo of the barn as it was in 2006, when the previous owner first acquired the property. The second was the barn as it was on October 2017, 2 months after the present owner purchased it. Note Google's date stamp in the upper left. The substantial amount of care and repair by the previous owner is unambiguously apparent. The present deplorable condition is entirely the result of applicant's negligence. He now seeks to be rewarded for that negligence by being allowed to demolish this almost 200-year-old English barn in order to increase the value of his investment. 3 months ago, he made application to demolish the barn. That application was denied without prejudice so that he could refile with an engineer's report that would indicate what was minimally required to stabilize the structure. That report was not included with the current submission and was only made available this morning, probably an administrative oversight. The report does not state what would be required to minimally stabilize the barn, although that can be inferred from the report. It is substantial. The Commission will decide whether or not to demand that applicant fix the damage done by his own negligence. Clause 4.1.c of the zoning ordinance permits this ordinance shall not affect restrictions placed on property by covenant, easement, deed, or agreement. So if the easement is more restrictive, the easement prevails. If demolition is denied, the easement requires that the Commission issue a breach of easement letter. Applicant's rights and options are clearly stated in the easement. This matter has been ongoing since April 2023 and should be brought to closure. In light of this situation, I urge the Commission to regularly exercise their right under the easement to have both the interior and exterior of the property, being the house, inspected for compliance. once a year seems appropriate. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, David. Who is next? Yes, come to the microphone and your name and address, please.
My name is Elizabeth Gillis. I live at 17 Pine Street here in Londonderry, and I was interested in attending this meeting today because I actually was interested in purchasing the property at 2 Litchfield Road, and it was the barn in particularly that I appealed to me. So being a business owner, I was potentially looking at converting the barn into a place of that I could conduct my business and potentially renovate the single-family home that is there now. My history is just one of owning old homes in which my husband and I, together with, we're not a contractor, we are regular people, but we are very skilled in being able to do renovations. And we personally have purchased and renovated from the structural end up of several old homes, making sure that they stand for a very, very long time to come. With that being said, one of the things that kind of bothers me is when I did go and look at the property, all the questions that we asked about the structure or whether there was any known problems with anything, the realtor told me that the owners knew nothing about the history of the property, that they knew nothing of any of the problems that were going on, then she basically had no information to provide to me. And then I found the town meeting later on in which all of these problems were being disclosed. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. So I just wanted to make that point in regards to the water issues and the water coming into the foundation and that the paint is peeling because the siding is rotting and all of these types of things. And my husband and I did, with our realtor, go into the barn. And I was amazed at how stunning and beautiful it was. And for me, some of the posts and beams, it's obvious that the sills are gone. It's obvious that there's no, proper foundation there. But I do question whether or not there are things that could have been done during the ownership to maintain the structural integrity of that property. Was anything done to the roof? I mean, there's always something that usually can be done if it's seen that something has been going downhill for, at the time that the property may have been acquired. So other than that, I don't, it's not my judgment to approve or deny, but there was just a couple of points that, being someone that really finds a lot of grace and beauty in older homes and tries to preserve them, I wish I could buy up everything in town and fix it so that they could live for the next 500 years. Unfortunately, I don't have those kind of pockets. But those were just comments that I personally wanted to make about the property, since I had actually seen the interior of it and did an inspection of it, for me personally, without an engineer or anything like that, but just what I was able to see.
I would say if there's a potential sale that's going on, I don't think we should be interfering in something that's, basically personal.
No, because of the, because of the restrictions and whatnot, but my comment was just, as a potential buyer, and this was quite some time ago,
Yes.
that I was just a little disheartened that, the information that I was given as a potential buyer was very different from the information that I saw when there was a meeting that was happening to discuss the property and the problems that were there, that they were not being disclosed to the public, I guess, is one of the things that I want to say.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Who is next? Deb. Just officially name and address, please. So this is just a formality.
Yeah, I know, thank you. Wow. Hold on.
You're in the basement there.
Well, I'm short to begin with, I felt like I was two. Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road. I just want to point out one thing, that whatever decision you make, that when I had owned the building, I was told that if something should happen to the building of the barn, if it should burn down or a tree fall on it or whatever, that the property had to be replaced exactly as is seen right now, or was seen, the historical look. It had to look exactly the same. So if you do approve this, which I hope you don't, but if you do, one of the things that I was hoping is that you would put restrictions that he must replace it with a barn that looks exactly like the barn that was taken down, and hopefully encourage Mr. Flyer to use some of the pieces of the beams within the new structure that he plans on using. The thing I struggle with is public safety. People don't walk over there. I know there's someone living in the house now, renting it out, but they're not in there. And so I'm really kind of confused as to public safety, who's going in and out of the barn, who's using it. Is it being used? I have no idea. But again, it's up to you, and I'm sure you're going to do the right thing. But in the 7 years I owned it, I put almost $70,000 into that barn. And you can tell by the pictures from when I bought it to what I did do to it was a lot. And as far as the sill goes, it was the people who were before me that took the granite. It's a granite slab that goes in between those doors. They moved it towards the pool. I couldn't move it. But I did replace and rebuild the window above the door, and I refixed the sliding, put in new wheels so the doors would slide open and shut. I jacked up the barn, put in the fixed part of the foundation. One of the things we were going to do before we left was the roof, and the roof did need fixing. But that was an easy fix. The cupola doesn't belong on that barn, but that I would have had to come to you to do something major like that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
This is not Q&A.
I'm just going to interpret
yeah,
for
It's not Q&A with
because
the
I
public.
just,
Okay,
I want to mention something she forgot to mention, and I'm going to let her take it from here.
okay, can you hear all
My
right,
name
Ann?
is Ann Champa, 28 Wedgewood Drive.
Okay.
Many people don't know this, but when Deb owned it, she had a gentleman who was recommended by the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance to come in and assess the barn. He made out a full report about the barn and a step-by-step pattern to what was needed in each step of the way and the costs associated with it. Something like we want to have done to the Reverend Morrison's meeting house. So there is a document that he was given when he bought that property that shows the steps to restoring that barn. And I guess well, I won't say anything, but it looks like that hasn't been done.
We don't need to get into that.
That was given to him when he purchased the property. And I was in the house many times. I've been up to the attic, down to the basement. I've been in that barn many times, and I was there in the last days Deb owned that property, helping to clear it out, and it had some very historic things in it. I got a bucket full of square nails. I saw in that barn original shutters from the house. And so many other things in there. There are some other things Deb gave us like carnival things and all that. But that building, I didn't consider it unsafe at all. Especially knowing that Deb had a preservation expert come in, and she paid to have this study done. I just want to mention that.
Okay.
Deb, do you need to? No. Oh, okay. Well, that's all I have to say.
You're all set, Ann?
Well, I do have, say one thing. That notice in the paper, it says nothing about a special meeting. It says nothing about the Historic District Commission. So I'm wondering about that union leader ad for the notice.
Okay.
It was missing some information. Thank you.
You can show it to them if they want to see it.
Do you want to see it?
You can give it to me. Is there anyone else? Anyone?
Back to the board?
Yep, back to the board.
Could we respond to
We
some
will
of those
close,
comments?
yeah, yeah.
Did I let you find it? I went to the library and looked for all the, I heard it might be in there. So I went to the library and looked, and I couldn't find it. Till I was told what day it was in, what paper it was in.
Well, the easiest way to hide things on me is right in front of my nose, so I'm probably better looking at it.
Yeah, that's what I did too the first time.
Office bookkeeper.
It's 1.5 by 2 inches.
Oh. I seem to like the sports stuff, but that's, I think you have to point it out first to me, Ian.
Perhaps she can show it to you at the end of the meeting.
Yes.
Right here.
Oh, legal notice.
I'm glad you have a reading
Okay,
glasses.
yep. I got it, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
It doesn't say Historic District Commission on it.
there is that. Okay, seeing no one else, I'll bring it back to the board. We'll close the public hearing part of it.
We need to respond.
I think this is a, not an easy one. Oh,
Would you like them to respond to any
We
comments?
need
Oh,
to respond.
yeah. yes. Not lengthy. Laura.
Please use the microphone.
Sorry. And again, I understand there's a lot of emotion, and if I was staff to the board, as I was in the past, I would really caution the board about sticking to what's in the zoning ordinance, and that's where your power comes from. That's your guiding document, is what is here. There's been talk about, we have to tell you what was minimally required. Respectfully, we don't. That's not in your zoning. There's no obligation upon any applicant looking for a certificate of approval to say, well, what would be minimally required to restore? That's not what is required for us to do. And I'll stand corrected from what Mr. Ellis said about the 5 properties. This is the only, when I say privately, that's kind of used like as a residence, not as a public forum building where people are going into. And again, there are unique circumstances for how this property was zoned back in the day. We did, take into consideration what the board asked last time about what needed to be done. The registered professional engineer said what needs to be done. We did not have to do that. That's not required by the zoning. And I think people are getting all caught up that we have to do all of this stuff to be afforded approval under the town zoning. There's nothing there that says what people are asking for this board to consider. That's not part of the requirement. That's not what is required of us. There's nowhere in the town zoning that says we have to try to save it, or what did he do that he should have done, or maybe he needed to do this and he should have done that. That's not part of the commission's analysis. There's nothing there saying that you need to look at what happened in 2017 or 2019 or 2021. Although I appreciate those comments and I understand the emotion and the passion, that's not the analysis for this commission. That's not what your zoning says. There's nothing in here saying, well, what happened when one owner had it to the next, to the next. None of that is relevant. There's nowhere in your zoning that gives the board the guidance or the authority to consider those type of things. It's clear that it's a public safety. And I know there are people here saying that they have experience, they've done this. Your own town staff is the one that put out the report, not us, saying that there were public safety concerns. So you have your building inspector, then you have a structural professional engineer that's doing it per what the town zoning calls for. Everybody else can have their opinions, they can have their comments, and I appreciate those. That's not what the zoning calls for. The zoning calls for those 2 people to do what they did. They did what they were supposed to do. We gave you what was asked. And all this other stuff, I appreciate it, but it's not relevant to the board's determination. And again, whatever other restrictions that are on this property that my client has with the town, that's a completely separate issue. This board's purview and jurisdiction is clearly defined by the town zoning, and I just would appreciate it if this board sticks to what they should be doing within the town zoning.
I think we do have the ordinance to look at, but also we have to consider what is in the agreement between the town and the owner of the property.
Mr. Rugg,
But I don't know, I know the last time there was litigation going on, so there's certain things we could talk about and certain things we couldn't talk about. I don't know the status of that litigation. So I don't want to venture too far into, what is in the agreement if it's being litigated.
Right, and again, that historic preservation easement deed, that third level, remember we have the C3, we have the historic overlay district, that's why we're here. We're not here as part of the historic preservation easement deed. We're here because of the certificate approval for the Heritage Commission. That third document is a document between the town of Londonderry and the property owner. And it gives a little bit of, play with this commission being involved to do inspections, but that's not what this issue is. This issue is a certificate of approval for the demolition of the barn, which is pursuant to the town zoning, not a preservation easement deed, not a C3 zoning district, just pursuant to this. There's nothing in here that's talking about a historic preservation easement deed. We're here under the town zoning ordinance, and that's a specific path that we have. Not saying we don't have other hurdles that we may have to undergo, dealing with other documents and other regulations, but that's not for tonight.
I think we're very conversant in what the ordinance is. We're probably not so conversant in what is in the agreement. And I know one of the times in here, we were with the town manager, and there's some more of the details. The question is, how involved we are. I really don't know the question to that. And that's where we're, and there's certain legalities I don't want to infringe upon, that if there is still litigation occurring,
Art, I believe we cannot speak about that right now.
we can't.
Mr. Rugg, can I now answer those points? They were defamatory.
I don't want to get into, back and forth at all. I
don't
think
either.
we've
I
heard
don't
enough
either,
from
but things were
Laura.
Things were said tonight that were
I
not true.
I think
And
your
you were
attorney
given-
speaks,
you were
Richard, I
given
think your
very
attorney
bad
speaks very
information.
well. I would listen to your attorney. So, I don't think we need to get, that's irrelevant to the question that is before us.
But the public comments were defamatory.
That's your opinion, Richard. You
When
can
you
talk
hear-
about it with them someplace else, but not in this forum here. You can go outside and talk all you want, but not here.
We don't
We're-
talk, we've been in litigation before.
Well-
I had to evict.
w-
one
w-
of the
Well,
people
Richard, I don't care.
It could be, we'll just
Listen
make
to
it,
your attorney,
Right.
please.
we're just gonna make a blanket statement that that my client disagrees with the majority of the statements that were said.
Okay,
That's reasonable.
that's good. Okay, commission. This is
Okay.
no easy decision, so.
No, it's not an
I-
easy,
I
no,
think
it's not
we-
an easy
I think
decision.
our emotions are, we gotta separate our emotions from
And I,
ordinance, it's-
and I think if people know me, I'm gonna call it the way it is. Laura, has anyone from the town hall contacted or spoke to you about any type of resolution on this?
In the very beginning, I
Yep.
did receive a communication from Attorney Carrier
Okay,
about the historic preservation easement deed, but nothing about this particular application.
okay. Was there any discussion concerning changing the zone?
Not with me. I know there has been in the past.
Richard, I'm talking to the attorney. Thank you.
I know there have been discussions. I have not been a party to those
Okay,
discussions.
I just
do
wanted to get
this.
clarity.
Yep.
That's it, okay. Well, I don't have to tell you, I've been in town a long time. I know you, and I know you. 2 Litchfield Road, as long as I have been in this town, for whatever reason, has always been an issue. And I'm not taking sides, I don't care to take sides. All right? Globally, when I look at it, I'm concerned that intersection is extremely dangerous. And I'm concerned about having that barn taken down. I'm not saying that it should, but just hear what I have to say. I'm concerned that if we take that barn down and it stays at C3, and I may be overstepping but I'm gonna call it the way it is, that something could go in there that will create more traffic for that intersection. I was at that intersection 2.5 weeks ago, and there was a 2-car accident, and one of the cars had a baby and a baby seat in it. My experience in town, that's one of the most dangerous intersections we have. You try to get up to Bartlett Hill, you try to go to Stonehenge, it's not good. So my concern globally is that I don't think that people of Londonderry want to have commercial creep up the street. I just don't think it. I've heard it in the past, and I don't think people really want that. I'm concerned about public safety, maybe not to the extent of someone walking out of the barn, but that barn is close to that road. That intersection's gonna get worse. And before I left the council, I have talked about traffic. I've talked about a growth management to see if we can contain this stuff. Well, obviously, it's not happening. So I'm looking at a couple of things, whether you like it or not. Okay? I did go into that building. I'm not a structural engineer, I'm not an engineer, but I've been in the construction business my whole life. The engineering report was very important to me. I'm not gonna talk about, it was sold 5 years and it sat for 5 years. At this point, we need to move on, okay? The engineer report was extremely important to me, and I had the opportunity to read it as quick as I can. And for the most part, and people can argue with me or discuss it with me, it kind of confirmed what I had been saying and what I saw, okay? Very difficult decision. I love to protect history. I really do. But based on what I personally saw, and based on this engineer's report, people aren't gonna like it, and based on what we have to decide here, I would say that we need to go with the engineer's report. That has pretty much been backed up by our building inspector or public inspector or whatever. But I am very concerned, Richard, and I'll tell you right to your face. If that barn's taken down and commercial goes in there, I'm not gonna be a happy person. There's my quandary. So maybe I'll go outside the box, Richard, and say, listen, maybe we need to come to an agreement to this. This can't keep going on. There's plenty of things in this town that we've got to take care of.
Jim, we do not have a site approval or a site plan ahead of us.
They would
Yeah, I understand that, but the bottom line is, if it stays C3, that barn comes down, that does not mean that the owner of the property at the time cannot come back to the town and try to put commercial in there. The zoning says it's C3.
I understand
I don't think that intersection globally
This is in the
can
historic
handle
district.
that type of C3 there, if indeed that's what happens. Maybe he'll do nothing with it, I don't know.
Jim, it's in the historic district, so it'd have to have the approval of this commission first before it goes into.
I
any
understand that, but do
planning.
you still want to get into a dogfight when the time comes, if it comes? That, it's C3. I have a right to do this, I have a right to do that, and that gentleman will have the right to do it if it stays C3.
Excuse me?
That's a global thing. As far as I'm concerned, I'll vote to have it removed. It's a crime. I don't like it. I've been in there. I hate to see things like this happen, but the bottom line is, it would cost a lot of money to try to fix that barn.
I'm
A
a
lot
little
of
new
money.
at this. I am an alternate. I'm a little new at this.
But you're a voting member now.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am,
yeah.
yes, and
Yep.
because of
Yep.
that, could I have some clarification from the board and possibly from Laura and anyone representing the town? What we are here tonight to do is approve or disapprove a certificate of approval, correct?
Mhm.
In order to meet the And yes, I'm a little bit emotional about this too, because I got on this commission to try to preserve history. But in order to meet the requirements for demolition, where public safety needs require the removal of the building within the district and as determined by the building inspector, the historic district shall allow removal. That condition was met?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. A request for demolition will be based on structural instability or deterioration as prepared by a registered architect or professional engineer. And that condition, as far as I can see, was met. The report we have is stamped with the gentleman's license. It was my impression that that is all we are here for. If they met the conditions, what we're looking at is, can the barn be demolished? If there's any other legal issues that supersede this, I don't know about them. I know there are certain things that can't be discussed. Is there anything that supersedes this that says this has to happen first?
Yeah, there
Okay.
isn't, there isn't. I've been trying to find stuff, but it's not there. The ordinance is the ordinance. Period. And I think we have our emotions also that mine say something different than from what the logical side says. So it's kind
That
of very,
From what I can see, they've met the requirements, and and that's what we're voting on, and the rest of it, there's nothing that supersedes this, and this is why we're here. And I think we have to make a decision, and I think if we allow our emotions to get too far ahead of us, we will be here till midnight.
back and forth, volleyball.
Megan?
Oh, I don't have anything
Oh.
to say that hasn't been said already. Like, I understand there's a lot surrounding it, but 7, 8, and 9 seem to be what we need to focus on.
And I will say, as Art and Jim and I know from our planning board experience, that we cannot take any potential items into account when looking at an application such as this.
I totally agree with you.
And we have our town inspector with his report, and now with our town, with the engineer that was hired with his report, it's pretty clear cut that they've met their expectations to have the building be demolished.
I mean, if we allow it, the next step is really with the demolition delay committee. And then, after that, the next recourse would be, the zoning board of adjustment. So it's not finalized. We're only one of the links. That is, if it's an aggrieved party, from, our decision, so.
May I have a point of clarification?
Well,
Mr.
we
Chair?
closed public
Yeah, I
comment.
think we're kind of getting
I
at this.
just, I couldn't hear Ted talk at all, and I just, I
Oh,
couldn't
you
hear
want
what you
Ted to
were saying,
repeat?
Ted.
What was I saying?
Yeah.
I was saying that Jim and Art and I, with our experience on the planning board, know that we cannot take a potential future project into account when looking at a singular application, and with this application regarding demolition of a building on a property, we cannot take into account what someone may or may not do in the future. And with the town and, with the town inspector and with the engineer that was hired, it's very clear cut that this building is deemed for demolition.
So there's no restrictions, is what you're saying? You can't
Correct.
put restrictions on it, right?
Right, there's
Not-
nothing that gives us that power.
Yeah, it
No.
doesn't-
I just needed to understand, I couldn't
Yeah,
hear
it
you,
doesn't
Ted,
give
but
us that
I'm sorry
power,
to
yeah.
interrupt your meeting.
No,
Go ahead.
it's all right.
Go to a
Okay
vote.
with me.
Yes, any further discussion with the board? If not, I'll look for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the application for demolition of the barn at 2 Litchfield Road.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Motion by Ted, second by Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Raise your hand. All those opposed, say nay. Raise your hand again. Abstentions? I think it's 5-0-0. And I would say the only thing that we request, if it is demolished, is that have the Historical Society look at the pieces. If you can use the pieces, great. Maybe the Historical Society can use them. You know, and I know it's very dilapidated, structurally unsafe, but if you're gonna do anything, put something there that looks exactly like that. That's only my advice.
I appreciate that, and my client and I have had discussions about including the Historical Society intimately if and when that happens.
Yeah, but talk with the Historical Society about the pieces and everything and what their interest is. You know, I really don't know, but I think there definitely would be, because it is rather, I think, unique architectural structure for that barn. So there's a uniqueness about it, and we'd love to have that uniqueness kept, because it adds to the character of the property. So that's what you have to think about. And I think you heard what people say. There's difference of opinion. I think we're beyond that now. Let's make some progress. It looks what is going to be good for really the town.
Motion
you.
to adjourn.
I have there's no other business, so I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Laura. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.